make the world go round. I'm trying to get it all right now. Everybody worry about the crown being. Look, homie, I'm the man right now. Talking to a peon, kind of time we on. Jump roll like the kind of take eons. Got a little buzz, it's time to go beyond. Can't look back, no time to hit rewind. Yeah, she wants to do that class. I'm like, boo, you must ask. They pour way too much in your glass. Just move your hips like a hold up class. Hit the cab, I talk that shit. Strut like up and I walk that shit. When I'm up, that's it. I'ma start living reckless. Get that bag, I'ma walk like this. Yeah, I'ma walk like this. Hit that lane, I'ma walk like this. Walk in the spot, but they all get lit. Told them on flow, let me talk my shit. Every song bang when they drop in hit. Said on the man, post up, no miss. Over your head, next time, no slip. Play your part, better read that script. Yeah, I'ma walk like this.
Welcome to the next episode of the I almost did it again. College Football Junkies. My name is Mark, co-host Montana to my left over here. Again, apologize. We haven't been back the last couple of weeks. Life's just been getting in the way. But we're happy to be back with another episode. Probably going to be the last regular season episode of the year, since next week is Thanksgiving for those of us here in the U.S. So yeah, let's start with breaking down some of the games going on this morning. At 11 a.m. on Fox, you got Rutgers and Ohio State. Ohio State's obviously got the big game next week against Michigan, where they have lost, I believe, 4 straight to Michigan. This could be a dangerous look-ahead spot. Like, they should theoretically take care of business against Rutgers today. Rutgers has a pretty good offense, and Ohio State is a 29.5-point favorite, which in a de facto look-ahead spot could make things a little bit interesting. Give me your takes. Give me your takes on this Rutgers-Ohio State matchup.
Well, first of all, I mean, like you said, Ohio State's been on a roll. Ohio State's been rolling the entire season. The Rutgers, on the other hand, I believe they're 5-5. So they're one off of a bowl game. Will they get a bowl game? I don't think that's going to come against Ohio State because, again, do I think Ohio State's winning by what everyone thinks they're going to win by? I think it's going to be a little bit of a closer game. I think the Rutgers are going to be able to hang around for a little bit. Are they going to be able to make it a 2-score game? I'm not going to go that far, but I do think that we're going to see them only lose. I mean, geez, I do think the Rutgers will stick around for the first 3 quarters. That's what I will say. I think they'll stick around for the first 3, and then Ohio State will just take care of business in that last one. But give me Ohio State winning. Give me 42-17. I think Rutgers can pull off 17 points. Is it maybe going to be closer to 10, 14 possibly? But I do think the Rutgers will have a few scores. And I do think Ohio State has to be careful because that game next week is not going to be a cakewalk because Michigan is on a roll right now. So They're going to be facing a really, really hot Michigan, possibly the hottest Michigan of the whole year. So they need to take care of business today against the Rutgers to build that confidence up and to get close to where they're trying to get. But I do think the Rutgers will give them a little bit of trouble, especially in those first 3.
Yeah. This is an Ohio State defense right now that's only giving up 6 points a game this year. Their defense is easily the top defense in the country right now. But Rutgers has a pretty good offense. I do think Ohio State is slightly looking ahead, and I think they'll show signs of slightly looking ahead toward that Michigan matchup next week. But I do think they still handle business today. It might look a little sloppy the first half, though. I think the second half they're going to pull away and all their talent's going to show. I've got Ohio State today. They're going to give up more points than they're averaging giving up. But I've got Ohio State winning this one 38. I'm going to say 38-20. What do y'all think about Kaliak Manis, or however you spell performance? Kaliak Manis is really good. 2,700 yards, 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's pretty good. And not to mention their running back is 1,000-yard rusher too. So they can run the ball. They could throw the ball downfield too. So it's going to be an interesting game plan for Rutgers. What do they decide to go with? Are they going to establish the run first with Raymond, or are they going to try and get Kaliak Manis going early? That's going to be a huge storyteller in this matchup. If Rutgers wants to keep this game relatively close, which I think they can. Rutgers' defense is not good. So in order for them to have a chance, they're going to need to go tat for tat with Ohio State today. So yeah, I think the quarterback situation is pretty good with Kaliak Manis. Kaliak Manis famously was with Minnesota, I think, last year. He transferred to Rutgers this year. He's having a pretty big year this year. And they also have the leading receiver. I forgot they have the leading receiver in this game too, in Duff. He has 923 yards, 6 touchdowns on 53 receptions. Rutgers has got weapons. So it's going to be an interesting game for sure.
How much do you have the Rutgers scoring? I don't think you got to that part yet.
I think I had like 38 or 35-21.
Oh my gosh, 21. Wow. All right.
Like I think this game is going to be pretty interesting, especially in the first half. He's looking like a stud 100%. Yeah.
Sure.
He's looking really good. Moving on to our next game at 11 a.m. It's on the SEC Network Plus. You've got number 3 Texas A&M going up against the world beaters in 1-10 Samford. The SEC bye week is here. The world famous SEC bye week. The big question for you is, they're a 54.5 point favorite. What's your idea? Like, do you think this total is too big, or do you think Texas A&M is going to hang an 80 burger today?
I mean, listen, it is a sleepy weekend for a lot of teams. There's a lot of games where it's a sleeper game, but you're not going to lose or make it a close game to a 1-10 Samford. Even if you have a sleepy game, they're winning by 40 plus. They could sleepwalk this game and sleepwalk 42 points. So I absolutely think they're at least breaking 40, but I think they're getting 50 plus. I think they're going to absolutely just hand up. Honestly, I think they could get to 60. I'm going to cap them at scoring in the range of 60, but I think it's going to be a 40 to 50 point win for Texas A&M. And Texas A&M looks solid this year. They look solid against teams much tougher than a Stanford. So they deserve it. They've earned this. They've earned this game. So go enjoy it, fellas.
The only thing is, last week, I get, it's South Carolina, it's not Samford, but last week, South Carolina got up 30-3. That was the biggest choke job I've ever seen in a football game, probably ever.
Yeah.
South Carolina's up 30-3 with only like a couple of minutes left in the third quarter. You're up 27 with that much time left. You're feeling really good about things. But Texas A&M showed a bunch of resolve, and they came back. They won 31-30. So I think Texas A&M rolls. I do think Samford covers, though. I don't think it's going to be as wide as the spread is dictating right now. Give me A&M in this one. I'm going to say like 54-7. I do think Samford could score on their first drive, because those are scripted plays. Those are plays that they run over and over and over again. So I do think Samford could score probably early in the game, but I think the rest of the game is going to be dominated by the Texas A&M Aggies. Moving on to arguably one of the better games of the weekend, also in the 11 a.m. slot. You got number 22 Missouri going up against number 8 Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a 6.5-point favorite at home. And Oklahoma's got a really good defense, too. What are your thoughts on this one?
So, again, this is honestly one of the better games of the weekend. We have a lot of sleepier games, a lot of mismatches. This is a matchup that, in my personal opinion, is a pretty even matchup. Obviously, the standings, they're spread apart, but give me Missouri. Give me Missouri winning. I don't know if you call this an upset because I think Missouri has been pretty consistently. They've had a couple of off seasons. They've been a pretty consistent competitive team in this conference since they've joined. They've been pretty consistently competitive, and they've looked really competitive to me, especially this year. To me, this looks like one of their better seasons they've had in a while. So give me Missouri winning. You said it's at home for Oklahoma, correct?
It is in Norman, yeah.
That is a tough environment, especially with Oklahoma rolling like they are. But give me Missouri winning. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be – give me 28-21. It's going to be a one-score game. Missouri scores late in the fourth and pulls it off and wins in Norman.
Okay. I like that pick. The big thing I'm looking for in this game is Missouri establishing the run game.
Yes.
They got Hardy as their running back, 197 carries for over 1,300 yards rushing and 15 touchdowns. He's one of the best running backs in the country this year. If they can establish the run game and keep the ball from Oklahoma's offense, I think that looks really good. It's 11 a.m. Even with a full Norman, it could be a little bit of a sleepy atmosphere at 11 a.m. I don't know. I'm gonna kind of pull for chaos here. It's kind of crazy that our title is the College Football Chaos Report. I'm gonna go with chaos, and I'm also gonna go with Missouri winning this one, 24. Oklahoma by 40. That could happen if Missouri does not show up.
Do you think there's a reality where Missouri gets blown out?
No, I don't. I think Missouri is better than getting beat by 40. Oklahoma's offense isn't exactly all that. I mean, John Mateer is okay, but he's not the best quarterback that Missouri is going to face ultimately. And I do think Missouri has got a better running game with their running back. So I've got Missouri winning this one, 24-21. I think Missouri hits a game-winning field goal at the end of this game. And here's the interesting part. In the college football playoff rankings, Missouri is 22nd, Oklahoma is 8th. If Missouri pulls this one off, could there be talk for a 3-loss SEC team making it into the college football playoff? Because Oklahoma is ranked number 8 right now. It would put Missouri in position to at least be just on the outside looking in. That's going to be an interesting thing to follow as we go through the final week in the regular season next week. So I don't know. I'm rooting for chaos here. I'm going to pull for Missouri in this one. Moving on to the next game, we got another 11 a.m. matchup on ESPN. Number 13 Miami taking on Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech fired their head coach a few weeks ago. They hired James Franklin. James Franklin's going to be in the building, probably doing a little bit of recruiting and taking in the game day atmosphere. Miami has looked up and down at times, especially with Carson Beck. Carson Beck, a few weeks ago, he threw several interceptions in a couple of their losses. What are your thoughts on Miami? Do they take care of business against Virginia Tech today? Or could Virginia Tech potentially pull off a senior day upset?
I'm going upset. I'm going upset alert. Again, you said it best. We're talking about chaos. That would be chaos. And also, I mean, you're talking about hiring, no matter what people say about Franklin and his inability to beat ranked teams or top 10 teams. I mean, you look at it, that's very true. You look at his record at Penn State, who he was winning against, who he was losing against, but still, that is one of the best, that is one of the top 20 college football coaches, in my personal opinion. And so for Virginia Tech to get him, that is a huge testament to where they're moving in the future. So I think we'll see a little bit of movement today. We'll see some excitement. And like you said, Miami has been up and down. Miami has been very inconsistent. Their record of 8-2 has not shown how inconsistent they've been, because they've won some games where they should not have, or where they've looked terrible at moments. And I think a team like Virginia Tech, especially with the excitement of having Franklin on board and senior day, I think give me Virginia Tech. It's not going to be a blowout. It's not going to be that big of a separation. I think give me Virginia Tech winning by a field goal. Give me 24-21 Virginia Tech.
Okay. I think this is going to be like, I don't think it's going to be ugly because it's going to be a blowout. I think it's just going to be an ugly game all around. I've got an extremely low scoring game in this one. I've also got Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech's going to come out with a little renewed energy, even though they don't have really anything to play for. Give me Virginia Tech in this one, 17-13. I think it's going to be lower scoring. I think it's going to be ugly. I think Carson Beck is going to throw a few more interceptions this week. I think he'll throw at least a couple this week. And I think Virginia Tech will capitalize on a couple of those mistakes. Moving on to another 11 a.m. matchup. It's on the Big Ten Network. You got Minnesota and Northwestern. Northwestern with a win today is bowl eligible. And it is at home for Northwestern, even though it's not it's played in Wrigley Field, so it might be a little bit more of a home field advantage for them. Give me your thoughts on Minnesota Northwestern. Do you think Minnesota gets that win to get to bowl eligibility?
I think Minnesota wins for sure. Northwestern has had a little bit of motion throughout the season. They've had some games where they've looked like a far better team than they are, and then they've had games where they've looked like the exact team that they actually are. So I think this will be a game where they look like the exact type of team they are, and that's a team with a lot of holes, and they're gonna of course, when we're talking about college football, it's not really rebuild. I mean, you can talk about rebuilds, but it's really, I don't like the term rebuild when talking about college football. But if there was a Big Ten team that needs to start building up and strengthening and building towards a better future, it's definitely Northwestern. Minnesota, on the other hand, is an annoying team. As a Nebraska fan, we can speak on this. They will beat you. If you do not show up 100% ready, they will beat you. Mm-hmm. Every time we've played them and we've lost, most of the time we have been a better team than them, in my personal opinion. They have just found ways to beat us at that time, because they're a team that can do that. They have ways to figure it out, and they seemingly always have ever since we've been in the Big Ten. Obviously, we've had some games on them, but when they beat us, they find ways to beat you. And so I think Northwestern, as great as they've looked in certain moments, Minnesota is a far better team, and I think there will be some separation score-wise. Give me Minnesota winning. Again, sometimes these Big Ten matchups, especially when we're talking about a Northwestern and a Minnesota, are not very high scoring, but I think Minnesota's going to hang some points on Northwestern. Give me 35-17 Minnesota.
Okay. I've got Northwestern pulling this one out, and here's why. I think Northwestern is going to kind of slop this game up just a little bit. They're going to run the ball a lot. Komalafe, 153 carries, 757 yards, and 9 touchdowns. I think Northwestern's going to play the time of possession game today. I think Minnesota has the opportunity to do that. It's going to be a limited possession type of game. The total for the game right now is sitting at 40.5. Northwestern's favored by 3.5. I think Northwestern, they're a gritty football team. Minnesota at times is a pretty gritty football team. I think this is going to be a gritty game. I think it's going to be an old school. I I think it's going to be an old school Big Ten West type matchup. Give me Northwestern winning this one 13-10. I think it's going to be well under the total today, and I do think Northwestern gets the bowl eligibility. Big Ten defensive sleeper game for sure. Oh yeah, 100%. It's going to be super defensive. So yeah, it should be if you're into old school Big Ten defensive Big Ten West type matchup, that's your game at 11 a.m. on Big Ten Network. Moving on to another game, it's in the ACC now at 11 a.m. Louisville going up against SMU. SMU is trying to play their way into the ACC championship. Louisville has kind of sleptwalked through the last couple of games, and they've played themselves out of the ACC championship. This game's at home for SMU. Does SMU get it done, Montana?
Absolutely. I'm a big SMU fan. I mean, I'm not an SMU fan, but I've liked their brand of football more than just this season, but this season especially, I've really liked their brand of football. Again, Louisville is a really solid team in certain areas, but I just think SMU gets it done. And SMU, in my personal opinion, is a team that I think within the next few seasons we could see as one of those sleeper playoff teams. Is it going to be this season? No. Is it going to be next season? I'm not sure, but you see those teams that kind of sneak their way into that conversation. I think SMU is a team that will make their way into that conversation. But for today's game, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a decently, I'm not going to say low scoring game, but I don't think it's going to go super high scoring. I think it's going to be a pretty hard fought matchup. And I do think we're going to see some turnovers on both sides. I think we'll see some polished football, but I do think we'll see some turnovers and we'll see some pacing that kind of switches throughout the game, and the control might switch throughout the game. I don't think this is going to be a game where SMU scores and then maintains control. I think we're going to see it back and forth. Give me SMU winning this one in a one-score 28-21 matchup.
Okay. I got SMU in this one also. I've liked how they looked the last few weeks. Their quarterback, Jennings, 2,800 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He's been throwing the ball all over the yard this year. And Louisville, while they are a pretty decent football team, they haven't looked particularly great the last couple of weeks. After they beat Miami a few weeks ago, I was like, man, Louisville might have something to say about this playoff race in the ACC. The last couple of weeks, it hasn't taken off, and they I think have lost 2 straight. SMU is coming in red hot. They are playing themselves into position to be in the ACC championship, and if they can get themselves in and win, they're going to get the ACC automatic bid to the playoff as a 3-loss football team. They're going to need to win out, but they could definitely get themselves the automatic bid, which would be a crazy story. I mean, SMU, they were in the playoff last year. They made the playoff last year. They had to go play at Penn State in the playoff last year, which was tough. SMU actually made that game somewhat respectable toward the end, I believe, if I remember right. I've got SMU in this one. I think they're going to get one step closer to the ACC championship. Give me SMU in this one, 35-21. I do think SMU wins this game by a couple of scores. So yeah, should be interesting to see that ACC race shake out as we get into the final week of the college football regular season, which is crazy. This season always goes by way too fast. Moving on to our next matchup. It's in the Big 12. We got Kansas going to Ames to play Iowa State. Iowa State's currently a 3.5-point favorite. Famously, that stadium is kind of sleepy at 11 a.m. Kansas is also a pretty decent college football program. They're at least very competitive. What do you think? Kansas get bowl eligibility, or does Iowa State hold Kansas off another week?
Well, I mean, we actually talked about Kansas way back episode 1 of this season. We talked about Kansas and said that we thought they could have a pretty successful season. Now, they've had some games where they've not looked like that team we talked about. They're 5-5, I believe, which one game off of bowl eligibility. And in my personal opinion, Kansas is a better team than what their record shows. And next season, I think you'll see a Kansas team that is more, maybe closer to a 7 or 8 win team. For this season, I do think you get your bowl eligibility. I think you get it against Iowa State. Iowa State is no sleeper team. Iowa State is also one of the better teams in their conference, but Kansas, I think, is going to come out gunning for that bowl eligibility because Kansas was in a way better spot at the beginning of the season. And I think a lot of people, not just us, other analysts and other people thought that Kansas might go on a little bit of a run because they have a lot of talent. But if anyone knows talent that doesn't always turn into a winning record, it's Husker fans. So we get that more than anyone else. They've had some losses that have been disappointing. They've had some games that they've dropped that they shouldn't have. I don't think they dropped today's game. Give me Kansas beating Iowa State in a punch-for-punch matchup because Iowa State does not want to lose to Kansas. Absolutely not. They do not want to. They have had some, speaking of disappointing losses this season, Iowa State has had their handful of disappointing losses. So they're going to come out swinging, but give me Kansas pulling it off by 2 scores. It's going to be close, and then they pull away. Give me 35-21 Kansas.
Okay. I can definitely see that. I've also got Kansas winning this one too. I think it's going to be a punch for punch. I think it's going to be a pretty offensive game today. Give me Kansas in this one 38-35. I think it's going to be higher scoring. I don't think Iowa State's got a good defense. I don't think Kansas has got a good defense. I think it's going to be a punch for punch type of game. And I think Kansas gets that final punch toward the end of the game. So 38-35 Kansas is my prediction for that one. Moving on here. Let's see here. We've got Baylor and Arizona at noon today. Baylor, 1 win away from eligibility. Arizona is having a pretty decent year. This game's at home in Tucson for Arizona. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think Arizona pulls it off. Arizona, and listen, I mean, Baylor has had, we've talked about these teams that have had some really shining moments, and Baylor's one of them. But they've also had their handful of moments that have led to what their record is today. So give me Arizona winning. I don't think it's going to be a super close game. I think Baylor's going to look really good early on, which is kind of the theme for Baylor that we've seen in some of their losses and even some of their wins. They'll look really solid early on and then fizzle out. So I think that's going to be what happens today. Give me Arizona winning. I think Arizona hands it up on Baylor a little bit. I think it'll be close in the beginning, and then Arizona begins to pull away. And we've seen Arizona do that against several teams this year and in previous years. So give me Arizona 42-21.
I think Baylor is going to come out, and I think Baylor wins today. I like their offense. I really do like their offense. Sawyer Robertson for Baylor, over 3,000 passing yards, 29 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. I think he's going to sling the ball all over the yard for Baylor today. I think Baylor gets it done. I've got it in a little bit higher scoring, but I do think Baylor pulls it out 38-27 to get to bowl eligibility. Their offense has been good. Famously, their defense has not, though.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty interesting game to watch here at noon. Gosh, it is really a sleepy Saturday for college football. Moving on to 2:30, we've got number 15 USC going to Eugene, Oregon to play number 7 Oregon. USC is red hot, and they're kind of playing their way into potential. They're going to need chaos to happen, both of these teams. Both of these teams need chaos to happen if they want to get to Indianapolis here at the end of the year. But this is a college football playoff elimination game of sorts. What are your thoughts on this one? Does number 15 USC beat number 7 Oregon, or does number 7 Oregon find a way?
I think USC pulls it off. I think USC wins it. Again, Oregon has both teams have looked solid. I mean, look at their records: 9-1 for Oregon, 8-2 for USC. Both of those are solid records. The Big Ten has only gotten more difficult to win in, and both of these teams are winning in them. These newer Big Ten teams are showing up and showing that they're the best of the best in the conference. And so I think it's going to be a matchup where you're looking at 2 of the best Big Ten teams and just 2 of the best college football teams. I will say this: Oregon is known for being an offensive team, not just within the last few seasons, just throughout history. Oregon is an extremely offensive team that's driven by their offense, and USC in the same breath, honestly, is as well. But I think this will be a lower scoring game. I don't think it's going to be a low scoring game because this is not going to be a Big Ten sleepy defensive game by any means, in my opinion. But I do think it'll be a lower scoring game. But give me USC pulling it off. Give me USC winning 28-24.
Okay.
So again, by no means a low-scoring game, but Oregon is known for 40-plus. USC, in some instances, is known for that as well. But I think they'll keep each other honest, and it'll be an exciting game.
I think it's going to be a very exciting game. I've got USC winning this one as well. I've just liked how they've looked more than Oregon has the last few weeks. Yeah, Oregon is 9-1, but they haven't particularly looked good while doing it. USC, I think, has looked a little bit better. Maeva for USC has looked really good at quarterback, over 2,800 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 interception. They've got a good running back too, and Miller, 99 carries for 719 yards and 5 touchdowns. And then people forget the nation's leading wide receiver, Mekhi Lemon, 71 receptions, 1,090 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So they've got offensive firepower all over the place, and I think they've looked a little bit more consistent on offense this season. Give me USC in this one. I'm going to go I don't know if I want to go extremely high scoring. Give me 35-23 USC today. I think USC hits a couple of big plays downfield with Mekhi Lemon. And I think they find a way. And they're going to almost solidify themselves into the college football playoff. I think it could potentially knock Oregon out.
Yeah, me too.
Even as a 2-loss team. I do think it could knock Oregon out of the college football playoff. Because Oregon's resume is just not really good at this point. They came into the season highly ranked. They're still highly ranked, but when they played a ranked opponent, they did beat Penn State. That turned out to not be a really good win at this point in the season because we all see how Penn State has gone for 6 out of the last 7 weeks. And then they lose to Indiana at home. I mean, they lost to the best team on their schedule at home. That's a game that you need to have. So their resume as of right now is not great. USC is a little bit better. I do think they're a little bit more consistent on offense. So I do think they make one or two more plays to come out on top against Oregon today in Eugene. And people in Oregon are going to be in panic because they could be out of the college football playoff come next week. So it should be interesting to watch. moving on. Kind of an interesting game. It's kind of an old Southwest Conference rivalry. You got Arkansas and Texas playing today at 2:30 on ABC. Arkansas, while they don't have a good record, they are 2-8. They are extremely competitive, and they've played in a lot of close games. Where have I heard that one before? They're going to Austin to play Texas today. What do you think, Montana? The title of our podcast today is College Football Chaos Report. Are you pulling for more chaos in this one?
Texas all the way. I got to go with Texas.
Okay.
As much as I would like to potentially go with the name of our show and say chaos, I just don't think Arkansas pulls it off. I think Texas wins it, and I think Texas wins it pretty big. I think Texas. The reason I think Texas wins it is Texas has dropped some games this season, and they've looked really, really bad. And is their record bad? Obviously not. They're 7-3. There's way worse records out there, even just within their conference. But Texas has had some really bad games, so I think they come out guns blazing, everything going, and I think they win. Give me. I will say I don't think they're going to break 40 points. So give me 35-10. 35-10. They shut Arkansas down. I know you don't agree. I can already tell you're flipping it and you're going with Arkansas, which I actually want to hear your take. So yeah, give me Texas.
One of us is going to end up being right. I'm going Arkansas. I'm rooting for chaos.
What are they? 2-8?
They're 2-8. I think Arkansas gets their first SEC win this year in Austin. I like Arkansas's offense. Arkansas's offense has been pretty dang good this year. They can move the ball on almost anybody. Again, where have I heard that one before? I think Arkansas puts together a complete game. And I do think they win. I'm going to say 31-24 over Texas today. And Texas is going to be completely out of the top 25 by next week.
You just hate Texas.
Horns down. Let's go. Horns down.
Come on.
I just don't know. I don't like how Arch has looked this year. He's not looked great.
At all. He's not looked as good as he's looked really not good, actually, to be completely honest. He's lost some games, and some games that they have won that he's not been a big part of that win. So I'm going to be honest, he has been a big disappointment. I thought he was going to be a Heisman top candidate. I thought it was going to be a little different. I'm not going to lie. I was on that hype train.
I was kind of unsure coming into the season about the whole Arch hype. I'm like, he came into the season as a Heisman frontrunner. We haven't really seen him outside of a couple of games last year where they were blowouts. And famously, that Texas team was just a better team. So, again, we had no sample size for Arch Manning other than he was a high-profile recruit going into the season. Going into last season, he was a high-profile 5-star recruit.
Yeah.
We saw 2 games last year. We've seen a full season sample size this year. He is nowhere near a Heisman frontrunner.
No.
He almost looks like his shoulder is in agonizing pain every time he releases the football.
Yeah. He definitely does not look like he's going to be a league quarterback, which maybe he'll develop into one, but you can just tell sometimes.
Yeah, you can just tell. But I'm rooting for chaos. It is the chaos point in the season.
It is.
Where a lot of stuff can happen. A lot of shit can go down. This is the week that it does.
Yeah.
And I think next week we're going to see a little bit more chaos happen too, because I've got one key prediction for next week that doesn't involve Nebraska. But one key prediction next week that could actually flip the season on its head potentially for somebody. So we'll have to wait a little bit later for me to get to that. Moving on to the next game at 2:30, you got Michigan State going to Iowa. Iowa's lost 4 games by a combined score of 15 points. Again, where have I heard that one before? Iowa has not been able to put together a complete game yet. Michigan State's actually kind of coming in scuffling a little bit. They're 3-7, 0-7 in conference. What do you think? Does Iowa cover the 16.5 point spread? Or does Michigan State's offense make things a little bit interesting and keep it pretty close?
Give me Michigan State.
Okay.
This is my chaos pick. This is maybe my second one. Not really, though, because Iowa's not very good. If Iowa was like even in the top 25 or even had, let's say Iowa had 7, even if Iowa was a 7-win team, I would maybe look at this as more of a chaos pick. But they have not looked like a very good team, in my personal opinion. They have not looked like as good of a team as they have looked even in the recent past. So for me, Michigan State pulls it off. It's not going to be – this is going to be a game that is somewhere in the middle. We've talked about you had a pick that was like, I think 10-13 or 10-14, a very close, more defensive game. And then we had a USC Oregon game that was a higher – this is going to be somewhere in the middle in my personal opinion. Give me Michigan State pulling it off by a field goal, 24-21.
Okay, I like that pick. I think this game has got potential to be another slog it out Big Ten type of game. I think it's going to be lower scoring. It's going to be kind of similar to the Minnesota Northwestern game we talked to a little earlier. Give me Michigan State also pulling this one off 14-13. And they kind of that'll send Iowa kind of sliding into Lincoln next week at 6-5. Which we'll break down Nebraska's game here in just a bit. But if Nebraska pulls the game off tonight, that could be a pretty I think a pretty good game next week. I think and we'll touch on that game too before we're out of here today. Moving on, we've got Duke going up against North Carolina. North Carolina is 4-6 right now. And if they get that 5th win, they're going to be bowl eligible because they have the highest APR of any college right now. So they could be bowl eligible at 5-7. They're going up against Duke. Yes, their record is 5-5, but they are also 4-2 in the ACC. What are your thoughts in this one? Do you think Duke pulls it off? Do you think North Carolina gets that 5th win?
I think North Carolina gets that 5th win. And I'm going to be honest. This is what I'm going to say. I think we touched on Bill Belichick briefly on one of our episodes this season, I think, briefly. But I do think it was a pretty big overreaction. I don't think we overreacted, but I think analysts and people overreacted. I do think at least it was an overreaction to say he's leaving, he's out of there, that's it. I do think he's going to build something there. Is it going to be a playoff or a championship winning team? No. Could it be a conference competitive team? Absolutely. I think he could compete in that conference, and I actually think we are going to see a big difference next season in that team. With that being said, I do think they get a bowl. I do think they get to 5. I think they get it against Duke. Duke is, like you said, looking pretty solid, especially in conference play. Their actual record obviously is not fantastic, but how you perform in conference play is almost more important than your entire record, because those are the teams those are your big teams you're going up against. Those are the teams you need to beat, not want to beat, need to beat. So for me, though, give me give me North Carolina winning. but it's going to be a close game. This is not going to be a high-scoring game. This isn't going to be a blowout. I think it'll be a one-score game. I think it'll be a decently low-scoring game. I think the first half is going to be super sleepy, and we're going to see a super close game, and everyone's going to be like, maybe we should just turn this game off. And then North Carolina wins 24-17.
Okay. I've also got North Carolina in this one by actually the same score. 24-17 as well. I think North Carolina gets that fifth win to get to bowl eligibility with their high APR rating.
Do you think they get to 6 against NC State next week?
NC State's not very good. They could. I could see it. I could definitely see it.
With how it started for them, that would look pretty all right on Belichick's first year as that coach. And I think you could even maybe write them in as getting a bowl win as well. So honestly, if that happens, it's not a bad season at all.
If they finish 6-6, 4-4 in the ACC, I think his first year after how it started is halfway a success. Getting bowl eligible in your first season as a head coach, pretty solid coaching job by Coach Belichick.
I don't know, though. I heard he was at a cheerleading competition this last week, so maybe he's not as focused.
Oh, yeah. He was rooting on his girlfriend.
So hopefully the assistant coaches did a good job taking over that while he was gone.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But no, I do think people overreacted about it. I do think it was an overreaction, and analysts and people take that stuff and run with it. That's just, I mean, it's for the headline, and that's what it's always been. And so I think that was a big thing. But I also do think there is something to be said because Belichick has had so much success in the NFL, but so much of that success was in the Tom Brady Patriot era. And so I think people forget that he was a successful coach before that time. He did have success in the NFL before Tom Brady. It wasn't obviously as much, but he did have success. So I just think that's just a big storyline, but good for them. I do think they get to 6. I do think they beat Duke and then NC State next week.
We both agree with that one there. Moving on to, let's see, at 3 p.m. on ESPN2, you got Kansas State taking on number 12 Utah in Salt Lake City. It's going to be a pretty ruckus atmosphere in Salt Lake for this one. Utah is right there in the thick of things to get into the college football playoff potentially. Kansas State, they're one win away from bowl eligibility. They've kind of had a disappointing year at this point. What are your thoughts? Do you think Utah takes care of business against the Wildcats?
Give me the Wildcats. I'm going another chaos pick because honestly, Utah, as great as Utah, their record looks, and as great as they have looked in some games, I think Kansas State, because they've had a disappointing year, I don't think anyone thought Kansas State was going to be the best team in college football, but I thought they were going to be a far better team than a 5-5 team. I really did. And I think a lot of people shared that thought. I thought they'd probably be around where the Huskers are with 7 wins, possibly. I thought that might be where they'd be at, or at least maybe already have that bowl game secured. But I think they're going to come out today. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a decently high scoring game. I think Kansas State pulls it off by 1 score. Give me 35-28. Kansas State wins on a late drive touchdown.
I've got Utah pretty big in this one.
All right.
I like how Utah's looked. Outside of the game against Texas Tech, although Texas Tech is doing it to almost everybody, they're kind of turning into the Indiana of last year.
Yeah.
But I think they're better than the Indiana team last year. I've got Utah on this one big. I like Utah's playmakers a little bit more. I think Utah's got a better defense. I think Utah covers this game. They're currently a 16.5-point favorite. Give me Utah on this one, 38-17. I think they force a couple of turnovers from Avery Johnson. And I think Utah will prevail in this one. Let's do a couple of more here for today's slate before we get to Nebraska. We've got number 18 Michigan in a kind of look-ahead spot because they got Ohio State looming next week, going to Maryland. And Maryland is kind of scuffled as of late. Maryland does still have a pretty good defense. People forget. Does Michigan get it done today in Maryland?
Absolutely. Michigan is on a roll. And here's what I'm going to say. Beginning of the season, I think I wasn't so sure about Michigan. Even when Nebraska lost to Michigan, I wasn't entirely sure about Michigan and entirely sure if they were going to be a team that would be able to sustain and last and look good for the rest of the college football season. And they've actually looked better as the season has gone on. So Maryland, they're a tough team. They'll come out, they'll give you a game, but Michigan's going to win 28-14. I think Michigan handles business. Michigan, I don't think is going to unleash and break past that. I mean, could they score 35 plus? I do think they could, but I'm going to cap it at 28 because I just think it's going to be a decently competitive game, especially that first quarter. We'll see Maryland's defense come out and shut Michigan down a few times, but then Michigan's going to get comfortable. When Michigan gets comfortable and gets on a roll, they just don't stop. And I think we're going to see that against Maryland today. So give me Michigan 28-14. Is that what it? Yeah, 28-14.
Okay. I think Michigan also gets it done today. I don't think there's going to be much of a look ahead. I think Michigan's going to control the line of scrimmage today. Give me Michigan in this one, 31-13. I don't think Maryland has what it takes to keep up on offense, and I don't know if they have the defense to hold up against their Michigan's running attack either, whether it be with Bryce Underwood or Marshall. I think at first it's going to be a slog it out, wear them down type of game for Michigan. I think Michigan's got more size on both sides of the line of scrimmage, so I think Michigan is going to pull off a pretty decisive win to get into Ohio State week. And that game's going to be very interesting next week once we get to the point of breaking that one down. So yeah, I think Michigan, I don't think they're going to look ahead very much. The last one I want to touch on before we get to Nebraska here is Pitt going up against number 16 Georgia Tech. Both of these teams are in that ACC championship hunt. Pitt is sitting at 5-1 in the ACC, 7-3 overall. Georgia Tech is having one of their best seasons in their history. They're sitting at 9-1, 6-1 in the ACC. Haynes King for Georgia Tech is an absolute monster at quarterback.
Absolutely.
Has over 2,200 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. But he also runs the ball. He has 148 carries for 807 yards and 14 touchdowns. He is currently sitting as a Heisman favorite. Easily with his statistics, accounting for over 3,000 of his team's yards, both through the air and the ground, which is insane. And 24 touchdowns, which is absolutely nuts. This game is at home in Atlanta. This is another look-ahead spot for Georgia Tech because Georgia Tech next week plays up against Georgia. What do you think? I honestly think Georgia Tech gets it done today.
I do too. I think here's the thing. Pitt has looked good. Pitt has looked better than I thought they were going to look this season. They're by no means a bad football team, but they've had their seasons where they've not looked very solid. They've looked solid. Georgia Tech, on the other hand, though, in my opinion, and we're going to talk, I'm assuming, about that game next week with Georgia and Georgia Tech, but quick little look to that. I think Georgia Tech could absolutely beat Georgia. I really do. Georgia Tech, this is You said it best. This is one of their best seasons in program history, not just in like the last few seasons. This is one of their best seasons. They look like one of the best teams, if not the best team. They have potential to be the best team in program history. So for me, they take care of business against Pitt decently easily. I do think we will see a competitive game, but I don't think the score will show that. I think Pitt will continue to be able to put points on the board and kind of try to make it a little closer, but Georgia Tech will just continue to pull away. And I actually think Georgia Tech is going to make it a decently high-scoring game. Give me 45-24.
Okay. I've also got Georgia Tech in the 40s. I've got 42 to 20 for my final score pick. Georgia Tech pulling it out. I think Georgia Tech comes in, takes care of business. They take Pitt out of the ACC title hunt.
That's it.
Yeah, it would be it because they would have 2 losses in the ACC. So I think Georgia Tech gets their 10th win today, and I think they have a potential to get 11 next week.
Yeah, I do too. I really do.
Before we break down some of the big games next week,
We got the biggest one.
I want to get to the Nebraska game tonight. Nebraska goes into Penn State at 7-3, 4-3 in conference, taking on Penn State, who won last week against Michigan State. Michigan State is famously not very good. Both of those teams last week were 0-for in the conference. Penn State is currently a 7.5-point favorite. That number has come down from double digits over the last week to kind of favor Nebraska a little bit. I think Nebraska goes into today getting it done. I think Nebraska gets their 8th win. I think there's going to be a lot of red in that stadium. I don't know if you've seen this or heard about this. There were a lot of tickets for sale for as little as $1 for this game because Penn State fans were disappointed in how this season has gone. I think there's going to be quite a bit of red in Nittany Stadium tonight. And I think that's going to help Nebraska prevail in this one. I think TJ Lateef is going to have a pretty big game. And let us not forget Emmett Johnson at running back, too, who is also in the Heisman conversation. I think is in for a pretty big game, too. Give me Nebraska in this one, 28-17. They get their 8th win with the potential to get their 9th win in the regular season against Iowa next week. What are your thoughts?
Everything you said except the score. I think the score is going to be here's my thing. Nebraska has just looked sloppy in moments against certain Big Ten teams. Well, here's what I will say. I actually take back what I said. I can see your score happening because I can see Nebraska's offense looked very solid last game. They looked really, really solid, and they've looked solid even when Raiola was playing was a quarterback. They had their moments, but I honestly think the offense looked at its best that last game. I just think they looked very comfortable. Obviously, you're not playing a Michigan, you're not playing a USC. It's a different opponent. It's a little bit of a less, but still, I think we just looked comfortable. I think it was a much better offense and a much better offensive performance from the start of the game to the finish of the game. So I can see them getting to a 28, but I think it's going to be give me Nebraska winning 17-10. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think Penn State is not going to look very good and they're going to have a couple of turnovers, but I actually think just because no matter what, even though I do agree and I share your thoughts that it's going to be a very red stadium, still, it's in Penn State. I still think Nebraska is going to have their moments, and we might see them struggle a little more than they did than in their last performance. But I do think they win 17-10. I'm going to give 2 scores because I can see it going 2 ways, 17-10 or 24-17. I think I can see Nebraska getting to 24, but to your point, I think you had 28. Was it 28?
Yeah, 28.
I can
28.
28. I don't think anyone breaks 28. I don't think we get to 30. I don't think it'll be a 30-plus game for either team, and I don't think Penn State is going to break 20. I don't think Penn State breaks 20. I really don't.
Here's the thing with Penn State. They don't finish very well when they drive onto the other side of the field. Nebraska has had a pretty good stop rate on defense this year.
Yeah.
In terms of not giving up too much. I think they hold Penn State. Penn State's only offense is running the football. They don't want Grunkmeyer throwing the ball against Nebraska's elite secondary. I think if Nebraska can stop their run game and force Grunkmeyer to throw on Nebraska's secondary, I think that's going to play into Nebraska's hands pretty well. And yeah, I just don't know how much energy this Penn State team is going to have. They don't really have much to play for.
No, they don't.
In this season. I mean, they came into the year as one of the front runners to potentially win a national championship.
Isn't that just crazy to think about? That's one of the biggest fall-offs, I feel, honestly. One of the biggest drop-offs and the quickest.
It's one of the quickest, but then you look at another team like Clemson, kind of a similar spot.
Yeah.
They came in as a preseason top 5 team, and they're sitting here. They're likely going to get their 6th win today against Furman to get bowl eligible. But
That's
yeah.
not saying much for Clemson, honestly. That's a team that used to be in the college football playoffs conversation year after year. Even recently, they've still been. But, I mean, they've been like – when it was just 4 teams, they were one of those teams.
Right. Yeah, I 100% agree. Although I'm going to kind of backtrack from the Penn State game real quick. That Clemson-Furman game, I would not be shocked if Furman pulled that game off.
Yeah.
I honestly would not. Furman has a pretty good quarterback, and they've got a really good receiver.
Yeah, no, they do.
Clemson's defense is not very good, and Clemson's currently a 41.5-point favorite in that game. I think Furman will cover at the very least.
No, I think so.
But back to the
chaos pick. All right, I like it.
Yeah,
So you're
going for chaos. I have to go with the title advertisement that we have for the chaos report. But moving on to keeping it with Nebraska, I just liked how they looked against UCLA. UCLA, yes, they're a bottom end Big Ten team when it comes to defense. But at the end of the day, you look at common opponents. Penn State lost to Northwestern. Nebraska beat Northwestern. Penn State lost to UCLA. Nebraska beat UCLA. Nebraska did what they needed to do to beat those two teams. Penn State did not.
Yeah, no, that is true.
Penn State, at the very end of the day, I don't care how talented they are still a 6-loss football team in a year, just a year after making the college football playoff semifinals. They were 2 plays away in that semifinal matchup for playing for a national championship. This team, I don't care that it's senior night for them. I really don't. I think this team is done. To be real, yeah, they beat Michigan State, but everybody's beating Michigan State this year.
True. That is true.
So yeah, I think Nebraska comes in, they control business. I think Emmett Johnson's going to have a pretty big game. I wouldn't be shocked if it's going to be another 100 game for him. If he gets over 100 rushing yards, and I think he gets close to 100 yards receiving, I think Isaiah Hunter for Nebraska can have a pretty big game. Huskers lose by 80 plus. Okay. Lay off the crack pipe, dude.
There's
no way. The only way that happens is if Nebraska doesn't truly show up and Nebraska turns over the ball 12 times.
There's still no way they lose by 80 against Penn State. There's only a few Penn State teams I can think about that we've played against that would even come close to maybe doing that, or that have been in the Big Ten at the same time as us that would maybe have a. But this is not them.
here's the other caveat too. Nebraska has owned Penn State since joining the Big Ten. Nebraska has only lost once in six times they played. So Nebraska is 5-1 all time while in the Big Ten against Penn State. So I think Nebraska can keep that one rolling.
How many of those wins were with Pelini?
So Nebraska beat Penn State. Hold on. Let me pull it up. You talk to the viewers here pretty quick while I look it up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I'll talk about something that does not have to do with this, but Rayola's brother decommitting from Nebraska. That happened. Would that just happen yesterday, or that happened on Thursday?
That happened a couple of days ago, and I don't think it's as big of a story.
You don't think Rayola's leaving?
No, I don't think so. Why would Dayton want to come in and live under his brother's shadow when he can go to another school and start potentially?
Why do you think he committed in the first place?
I think he committed because he was unsure as to what was behind his brother. He was unsure with how good TJ Lateef was going to be. And TJ Lateef has come in and looked like a pretty good quarterback.
So do you think this means, instead of Rayola leaving, that Lateef and Rayola are both going to stay?
I think Lateef and Rayola both stay. I think Nebraska
leaves.
I don't think Lateef leaves. I think Dylan Rayola is coming in. He's going to play one more year. Next year, I think he gets drafted after next season. And then I think TJ Lateef is going to be the starting quarterback going into 2027.
Did that give him 2 seasons as starting quarterback or 1?
That for Rayola?
For Lateef.
That would be his first full season starting.
Okay.
But let me get here.
What year would he be? Would he be a junior?
Junior. I think it would be June. No, he's a freshman this year.
Well, junior.
He'll be a sophomore next year. So yeah, junior.
Yeah. So that makes more sense. So that just means we've secured our quarterback room. That'd be the best case scenario. That's what I thought. But people were. Have you seen social media and people freaking out?
Yes, it drives me crazy. I'm like, the situation doesn't have to involve Dylan Rayola.
Yeah,
Dylan Rayola is the starting quarterback for the University of Nebraska.
I wanted your thoughts on that, and I assumed that you shared that, but I wasn't sure. I didn't think you were one of the people freaking out.
No, absolutely not. I'm like, why? Like, I actually like to think these things through.
A lot of sports fans in general don't.
They don't. No, 100% they don't.
I'm one of them sometimes. In this case, I didn't do that. But when it comes to the Lakers, I'll do that. I'll be honest.
But I pulled up the Penn State Nebraska football series here. Nebraska beat them in 2011, 2012, 2013, and then they lost in 2017 in that pretty high-scoring matchup. It was 56-44 in State College.
I remember that. That was
that game started off kind of ugly, not gonna lie.
Pelini got 3 of the wins.
He got 3 of the wins. And then in 2020, Scott Frost ended up beating him at home.
That's crazy. So Scott Frost has one of them.
Yeah, Scott Frost, believe it or not, has one of them.
Well, good for Scott Frost. He can have one thing on his Nebraska resume. He has a few things, but not really football related, I don't think. But no, so Pelini's the GOAT. So basically what you're saying is Bo Pelini's the GOAT. I'm just kidding.
He is absolutely not the greatest of all time. Tom Osborne is the greatest coach of all time, okay?
I got to go with Pelini over Tom Osborne, but that's
another. Whoa! Which coach won national championships?
If Pelini was still here, he would be on the same trajectory as Osborne. I'm just kidding. I don't think that. I'm obviously kidding, but I do think. I don't think Pelini's better, but I do think he was fired. I mean, I don't know. It's the fact that there's a lot of stuff that I think had nothing to do with what fans and people even realize. Obviously, like, his brother had his problems and had his thing, and then he was on staff and then was living in his, like, I think a lot of it had nothing to do with the football side of it, obviously, but I do think Pelini should not have been fired. And I've said that on this show since we were the Connor and Heffernan show. I have said that since the beginning, because I just think he was fired too soon. But I don't think he's better than Osborne. I'll take that.
Like I said, Bo Pelini wasn't fired for his record.
Yeah. No.
He was fired, like, in whose right mind would someone go back talk their boss who writes their paycheck? And he did a lot of that. So,
yeah. I mean, at least don't make it public if you're going to do it. But you shouldn't do it. But he was not very smart about it.
He was not very smart.
He wasn't good with media at all.
No, he was not good with media. He was bad against his boss. I've heard a couple of things from former players that he wasn't exactly a player's coach necessarily. So he was a bit of a head case in a way.
He was, which
like, again, he wasn't fired for his record. If he would have kept his cool, I would have been all for keeping him. But the fact that there were numerous times where he was called for unsportsmanlike conduct on the sideline during games because he would practically almost hit a referee.
It's not funny.
Like, there were times where he costed Nebraska games.
Yeah, he did. You are right. Right. And that's the problem, that is a very good point, and he definitely did cost Nebraska. And it also, not even just because of, like, those moments, the locker room morale and just how it was. Like, I do think there is something to be said for that. So I do agree. I didn't love the way it went down with just the timing of it and how he was just like, but I also, I mean, yeah.
If you actually do a deep dive into why he was fired, like, you would probably more so understand. Like,
I know about the audio. I know there's a lot of stuff that happened, but there's a lot of coaches that I feel like have done worse and stayed on staff, which that doesn't mean that should happen. I just felt like the timing of it didn't make a lot of sense. I mean, we went to Mike Riley next, and that experiment wasn't awful. It wasn't great. It wasn't as good as it was supposed to go. But I mean, we went to a far worse one next with Scott Frost. So it's not like, I don't know. Had we gone from Pelini to Scott Frost, that would have looked way worse. Going from Pelini to Mike Riley, at least we had a few seasons of success and something. We couldn't beat a damn ranked team or a Big Ten team that was better than 5 wins to save our life, but at least we were good for the first half of the season. But
hey, Mike Riley in his first year here beat number 7 Michigan State at home. So
was that the game that they won? When did we beat Michigan State in, like, the last second? That wasn't that one, was it?
So we ended up. So that was the game with the famous play where Brandon Riley was forced out of bounds. That was under contest for the longest time, thinking that people were like, "Oh, he wasn't forced." He was forced out of bounds.
I have a story about that game.
Yeah.
Me and my mom were at that game, and where he scored that touchdown was right in front of our seats. And me and my mom fucking left 5 minutes before that, or 10 minutes before, and then we heard it on the radio. But we left. We didn't see the end of the game.
Oh no!
So I missed that moment, and it was literally right in front of in front of the seats. So
yeah, that was the last time Nebraska beat a top 10 team.
That's insane. That's crazy.
So
hey, shout out to Mike Riley.
Yeah, Mike Riley was able to get that one done, and then
I didn't hate Mike Riley. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't think he was great, but I did not hate him as much as some people.
Mike Riley was a nice guy. He was a really nice guy. They made a bowl game in his first year. And they ended up starting off 7-0 in 2016. People forget Nebraska had a 7-0 start in 2016. And then a bunch of stuff happened. Injuries happened. Nebraska kind of fell off. So yeah, Mike Riley wasn't all bad. His last season was definitely pretty atrocious, but overall he was a nice guy. As far as the Scott Frost situation, he had that one really good year with UCF. People didn't know how he was going to be at Nebraska. I kind of had a clue as to how things were going to go after his first press conference when he's basically said, I basically hope the Big Ten has to adjust to us. When he said that, I'm like, oh, this has potential to go very much so south really quick. Yeah, that was not a good quote from Scott Frost when he first took the job.
Not at all. Did not age well either.
No, absolutely not.
He did not age well.
Yeah, so yeah, Nebraska right now with Matt Rule, they're in a way better spot. They're in as good of a spot as they were probably with Bo Pelini. Hopefully they, eclipse that Bo Pelini mark here within the next few seasons. I think they can. They've got some pretty good recruits coming in the next couple of cycles. So Matt Rule has done a really good job at flipping the roster with talent. They've got more blue chip players now, 4- and 5-star players coming in. 2027 class is looking really good. They're sitting at number 3 in the country in the 2027 recruiting rankings. So when that's all said and done, Nebraska, believe it or not, they could have the number 1 recruiting class in 2027.
That would be crazy.
Which is absolutely nuts. Before we end the show, I want to go to the games next week.
Absolutely.
And we'll break down a few of these games here.
Because there's some key ones. There's some sleepier ones this week, but there's some key ones next week.
Yes.
Much chaos, if not more.
We'll kick things off here. Got number 12 Utah traveling to Lawrence, Kansas next week, 11 a.m. ESPN. Home game for Kansas. Right now, I think it's possible they can get bowl eligible today. I really do think so. Because they're in Ames. They're playing at Iowa State. So, hypothetically speaking, if Kansas is bowl eligible next week, they play a big home game against Utah. Does Kansas get their hypothetical 7th win against Utah next week?
Absolutely. I think Utah, because I said Kansas, because they play Kansas State today, yeah?
Utah plays Kansas State, yes.
And I called that as a chaos game. Give me double the chaos. 2 Kansas teams, double the chaos, beating Utah back-to-back weeks. Kansas gets it done. It's in Lawrence. They're nice stadium. Fans are going to be out. They're going to be excited because they're going to be coming off of that win this week. So I think give me Kansas beating Utah. I do think it's going to be a decently close game because I do think, again, Utah is not a team that is going to let someone walk all over them, especially at Kansas. But give me Kansas 28-24.
All right. Before we get to Nebraska, Iowa next week, going to the 2:30 end of the slate, got number 4 Georgia taking on Georgia Tech. Considering Georgia Tech gets things done today, what are your thoughts on this Georgia Tech-Georgia matchup?
I think Georgia Tech can totally beat Georgia. I think Georgia, Georgia's got to give Georgia credit. Georgia has been one of the best teams, if not the best team, year in and year out in a lot of different ways. But I do think teams are catching up, and I think Georgia Tech is going to be able to beat them. I do think it's going to be a game that's going to be decently high scoring because I do think Georgia Tech, as good as Georgia's defense can be, I think Georgia Tech's offense will be able to overpower them in a lot of scenarios. But Georgia's offense is going to be doing the same exact thing to Georgia Tech's defense. So I think it's going to be a pretty punch for punch game. Give me Georgia Tech winning 38-35 with a field goal in an exciting late game scenario.
Yeah, I've got Georgia Tech pulling off the upset here too. I don't know what Georgia is going to do with Haynes King's legs.
Yeah.
Haynes King can beat them with their arm as well. Like, he's really good. But if Georgia Tech can establish running the ball with either King or the running back and play a little possession ball, I think Georgia Tech can take care of business against Georgia. Which it's going to be interesting just depending on where Georgia is ranked or Georgia Tech is ranked. Could that be obviously before, championship, like conference championships, could that be a playoff eliminator game for either one of those teams?
Absolutely.
That's going to be an interesting talking point when it comes to the committee. When it comes to the final rankings, at 6:30 on ABC next week, we got number 17 Texas taking on number 3 Texas A&M in a pretty nasty rivalry game. Like, it almost gets chippier between Texas A&M and Texas than it does Oklahoma, Texas.
Yeah. Seriously.
It is a very chippy matchup. Give me your takes on this one. This one is in Austin, Texas, by the way. It is a home game.
Give me Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M is the better football team. I think Texas, like we talked about earlier, their record is not awful, but they, to me, have not looked like as good of a football team as I thought they were going to be this season. And I think as good of a football team as a lot of people thought they were going to be, specifically that quarterback. So give me Texas A&M winning. I do think they're actually going to take care of business and win by 2 scores. Give me 42-28 Texas A&M.
Okay. I've as much as I hate to say it, I'm going Texas here. I think
not horns down next week.
I'm not horns down next week. In quite a few ways, I don't like Texas A&M more.
Okay, fair.
I can't stand A&M. Famously for that 2010 Nebraska Texas A&M debacle, that game was an entirely different debacle. But I think Texas's defense, they can hold Texas A&M down. I do like what Texas has on defense, and I do think Texas's offense can do just enough to get things done. Give me Texas and then in that game 24-21. I think it's going to be slightly lower scoring, but pretty competitive. Let's see here. Moving on here to the Saturday end of the slate, we got Miami going to Pittsburgh. And I think we both have Miami potentially losing this week. What do they do against Pitt if they lose this week? Do they go in and not show up? Because they're not going to be in the playoff after this week if they lose. Or do you think Miami comes out and they give the season almost one last hurrah in the regular season?
I think they lose. I think that they crumble. I think after getting eliminated from playoff contention, I think we're going to see all the swagger. Anything that they do have is going to be completely deflated, and I think they're going to lose to Pitt because Pitt is going to be coming off of, I think I predicted them losing this week. So Pitt is going to be going for blood and going for that big victory again, that last victory. And so I think Pitt pulls it off and beats Miami, but I don't think it's going to be a beatdown. I think it's going to be a decently close competitive game. Give me a 28-21 Pitt win.
Okay. I see that. The last game I want to talk about before we get to Nebraska, Iowa, which that's the game we're both going to. I'm excited. We've got Florida State taking on Florida. Florida State's kind of had a mess of a season. So is Florida. Florida has really nothing to play for except for keeping Florida State out of a bowl game next week.
Yeah.
That game's at home for Florida. What do you think? Does Florida State get bowl eligible, or does Florida keep them out?
I think Florida keeps them out. I think this is another game. This is an in-state matchup where these teams don't like each other and want to be the better team. And I think Florida has been the better team historically. Looking at the Tebow era, looking at other eras where they've just been the Florida team. And so I think they are going to try to prove that. And I think that's going to come into play. And I think you have to take that into account in some of these matchups. And I think this will be one where it does come into account. Give me Florida winning, but I don't think it's going to be a super high scoring game. Give me 21-17 Florida.
Okay. I've also got Florida pulling this one out. I think Florida's going to come out pretty big on senior day, honor their seniors. I think it's going to make the seat all the more hotter for Florida State's head coach if they finish the season 5-7. After they beat Alabama, I'm like, oh, Florida State might be good. That couldn't be further from the truth. Florida State's not very good. So is Florida, but I think Florida will have a little extra piss and vinegar for next Saturday's matchup against Florida State. And I have Florida winning, I'm going to say 24-13. I think Florida slops this game up a little bit. They play a little bit more possession ball. And I think it's another game where Florida State won't get out of their own way.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Moving on to the Black Friday matchup. This is the last thing for today's episode. We've got Iowa going to Lincoln, Nebraska to take on our beloved Nebraska Cornhuskers. Iowa's taken 9 out of the last 10 matchups against Nebraska. But I think some things could be different with this one. Give me your takes on this Nebraska-Iowa matchup.
Honestly, I think, and maybe this is just because I am really hoping this is how it goes, but I think we crush them this time. I don't think we crush them in the sense of the entire game. Like, we're not going to go up 21-0 in the first half or 21-0. It's not going to look like that. But I do think we win 35-17. I think we have, and 35 is that's a generous amount of points. I will be completely honest. I'm going on the higher end, but I think we looked super good against UCLA. We have a really good potential to look really polished against Penn State. So I think going into Iowa, we might be playing our best offense. And that is no dig on Raiola or no dig on anyone that's out or in or any of that. That's just me thinking at this point in the season, coordinator-wise, player-wise, everything-wise, and you're at home. And like you said, we get our asses kicked by Iowa. I mean, we have not had that much success against Iowa in our time in the Big Ten. So I do think we win 35-17. I'm going to give 2 scores just to be on the safe side because I do think 35 is being a little generous with how much we're going to score. So it's either going to be 35-17 or 24-17. Those are my predictions.
I think Nebraska comes out pretty big for senior day. I think Nebraska is tired of getting beat by Iowa in the last seconds. And I think it's going to be reminiscent of the game a few years ago with Mickey Joseph as the head coach, where Nebraska gets up 24-0. I think Nebraska is going to control the game. I think Emmett Johnson is probably in for another big game to kind of solidify his Heisman campaign. And I like what Nebraska has, on the outside of the numbers too, with the receivers. Iowa's quarterback doesn't throw the ball. He runs the football. He doesn't beat very many people with his arm. And I don't like the athletes that Iowa has outside the numbers. Their leading receiver has 237 yards receiving on only 18 receptions. That shows how much they throw the ball downfield. Force Iowa to throw the ball downfield, you're going to be in a really good spot with Nebraska's secondary the way they are. Nebraska's secondary is legit. Give me Nebraska in this one. I've got it pretty big. 31-13. I think it's finally a year where Nebraska can take it out on Iowa. And if Iowa loses today and then they lose next week, finishing 6-6, that's an utter disappointment. Not for Nebraska fans for sure, but like if Nebraska wins today and next week, that's 9-3, 6-3 in the conference. You're likely going to a Florida bowl game. I mean,
we haven't had it that good in a while.
Yeah, I know. It's been quite a while. You're probably going to be a top 25 team too, going into that bowl. So
I'd love to see that. That's a good look, especially, I mean, some of the losses this season, I didn't jump ship or think we were out of it, but I know that there was some frustration and some concerns, but I mean, we definitely have potential to finish as a 9-win team.
Oh, 100%.
And that would just be like, I mean, we haven't seen that since
Bo Pelini.
Yeah.
Well,
we had one. Do we have one with Riley?
We had one. We had that 9-1 season with Riley. That was the year we started 7-0.
Yeah. So we had one with old nice guy.
But it will be the first one since then for sure.
Yeah. So let's get it. It better happen, bro. I can't see 2 losses this season. I already saw us lose to Michigan live. I can't see us lose to Iowa live as well.
And guess what? Famously, Nebraska has kind of flipped the script on one-score games. They've won 4 this season.
True.
So yeah. Should be interesting. We're going to be going to the game. Iowa's the same old boring team, 8-9 wins, which is huge for them. Very, very true. Very true. They want to revel in mediocrity all the time. Meanwhile, other teams are trying to get up and not be mediocre. Which,
you know what? The Huskers haven't even. Well, yeah.
Nebraska in the last few years hasn't even sniffed mediocre. So this year, I will take a 9-3 finish to the season because that just means things are bigger next year.
Undefeated.
I don't know about undefeated. They could be. They could be 10-2, and we'll have an episode probably after the season ends, kind of breaking down where Nebraska's schedule lines up. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But I think a 9-3 finish for Nebraska and 6-3 in the conference will be pretty good because that's top half in the conference, and you're a top 25 team probably going into next year. So.
That's huge. That's something that we haven't seen and something that we still have to get through Penn State and Iowa. So hopefully we handle business. But I'm sure when we talk to you guys again, we'll be a 9-win team easily. We already know it.
You better knock on wood about that. Knock on wood.
I did. I promise. I knocked on my countertop. But no, listen. Next time we talk to you guys, we're going to be out of the regular
postseason.
We're going to be talking postseason, conference championships, awards, playoffs. That's going to be exciting. So we will probably be coming back to you guys. Early December is probably when we'll be back. Is my guess. Yeah,
that would be my guess too, because by then everything will pretty much be solidified as far as conference championship matchup goes.
Well, a lot to break down.
Yep. The last conference championship, the last breakdown for the regular season will be then before the conference championships. And then when the final playoff rankings come out, we'll be breaking down playoff.
So much left to go over. So we're really excited, and we will definitely be coming to you guys with a few more episodes before the season's done for sure. We won't just disappear.
100%. As always, guys, I thank you guys for listening. Enjoy the next 2 weeks of college football regular season, and we'll be back come conference championship week.
And make sure to tune in to Well Beyond the Arc Tuesday at 7 o'clock. David will be back, so it'll be a full show. So any NBA fans that are in here or that are tuning into the show later, Tuesday, I don't know I'm not good with dates, but Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time, me and Dave will be back with Well Beyond the Arc. But that takes us to the end of another show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will bring you more college football soon.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. As always, hit us in the comments. Hit us up on our social media if you want us to break down anything. And we'll make sure we do our best to get to that stuff for you guys. But as always, thank you guys so much for listening and enjoy the next 2 weeks of college football.